Hi, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of Culture Speak, the art of talking about work. Now, at the end of the first episode, I talked about the 2 observable factors that we see in work every day, and that's how emotionally intelligent people are and how engaged they are in their work. And when you put those 2 factors together, you get a sense of where you are at any given stage, what kind of culture that you have. And again, this is something that you'll feel. I talked about this in part 1. It's very much something that you feel. And it's very difficult not to get dragged down either by the work that you're doing or the people around you. It's very difficult. Have you ever had that feeling? Sometimes you have to really fight it. You're like, I know that person's being an idiot and I'm not going to let them affect me. And then they do. The most emotionally intelligent people I know end up taking that home with them because you just can't avoid it. I'm an optimistic realist. People just aren't made of Teflon. We're not. These things wound us in ways that often we don't understand until we get on holiday and we realize just how stressed we are. And we end up taking, like 2 or 3 days to get over the sickness before we can actually enjoy our holiday. So these things affect us, but again, the benefit of having a common language, if you remember from part 1, it's all about feedback, it's about accountability, and it's about a bit of a reminder. This is a group of people, we're trying to do the best with that we can with what we have, and our goal is to achieve that, whatever that is, and we agreed that we would do it this way. Now, when you have low emotionally intelligent people, so people who aren't being the best versions of themselves, who aren't engaged in their work, you get what we call a stagnant culture. Now, stagnant cultures, well, they just stink, really. They're really bad. I've worked in 1 or 2 stagnant cultures in my 30-year career. I worked in 1 or 2, and I also worked in a toxic one, and there was a bit of me that hated the stagnant culture more than the toxic one. Because at least with the toxic culture, it was 1 individual, it was 2 individuals. And you kind of thought, well, if they can deal with those 2 people, it would change everything. Whereas with the stagnant culture, it was a few people, and they just didn't seem motivated, and they were always moaning. And so, the hallmarks of a stagnant culture is individuals who just generally want what's best for themselves. They want the conditions to suit them. We saw a little bit of this post-COVID when we moved to home working. Is people were just like, well, I want this for me. And it's like, well, that's not the way that teamwork works. Teamwork is about us agreeing what we'll do, how we'll do it, when we'll do it, and then sticking to that. Whereas some people were very much, well, I don't want to come into the office. And the rest of the team are like, yeah, but we need to come in to do this thing. So there's a little bit of that, a little bit of selfishness. Also, I think generationally, it's a struggle. Certainly for people my age, Generation X, I'm in my mid-50s now. And I think, when people my age started to work, you were used to the organization telling you what to do. There wasn't this sense of individualism that there is now. Now, don't get me wrong, it's Generation X parents who are actually bringing their kids up to be more individual, and it's not a bad thing. But we've forgotten what it means to be a team in some instances. Now, of course, you take a sports team, it's different. They're all in the same space all of the time. They literally live, work, play together, all of these kinds of things. And yet you still get individuals who only want what's best for themselves. At the time that I'm recording this, it's ahead of the Premier League season here in the UK. And you've got players who literally go on strike because they want to move to another club. And so if you're an athlete, if you're a football player in that scenario, you're like, well, that guy's an idiot. And you're trying to not let it affect you. But that's all you talk about amongst yourselves. Like, can you believe that? Can you believe that? Can you believe that? And then you've got someone saying, come on, let's not talk about that. Let's focus on what's good this season. But then you're like, yeah, but he's our best player. And if we lose him or her, then what's it going to mean for us? And all of a sudden you find yourself gossiping, talking behind people's backs, just nervous, afraid. And you're like, well, maybe I should get what's best for me. If they're looking for a move, maybe I should look for a move as well. In part part 6, we'll talk about vibrant cultures. And the Lionesses have just won the Euros. They've just retained their Euros. That's the very epitome of a vibrant culture. So it's not going to all be doom and gloom. I will get to that and talk about that and what that looks like. But stagnant cultures, yeah, it's people who want what's best for themselves. Often they're protecting their pension. They're like, this is my job. I'm not going to tell anybody how to do it. They just disappear. You know, I think that's the thing with stagnant cultures. People just go missing. Like they don't respond to emails. They don't respond to phone calls. They don't respond to messages. If you invite them to stuff, they just don't turn up. Either that or they're unapproachable. They're just very, very difficult people to talk to. Now, I'm not tarring the IT people here, so if you work in IT, please forgive me. But I was rewatching, as I've done many times over the last 20 years, an episode of the UK Office where the IT person comes to help Gareth, very much about, this is who I am, this is what I do, have you done this? He wants to be the best at everything. Just completely unapproachable, although Gareth's not great himself. But that's a great example of someone who's just stuck in this, this is who I am, this is what I do. Often I find in stagnant cultures as well, and it's not just one person, usually it's more than one person that infect, for want of a better word, the culture. You have this real aversion to change. They'll say things, oh, that won't work here. Yeah, they've tried it before, but that won't work. Just wait 6 months, it'll go away. We've seen people like that come here before. They'll leave, don't worry. And they eventually went out and they maintain that sense of stagnation because it actually suits them. Or else the flip side is they wait for things to break and then they swoop in and save the day, or as I call it, that hero mentality. I think organizationally, though, the big issue is in stagnant cultures is there's no consequence. There's no consequence for poor behavior. There's no consequence for poor performance. And as a result, organization never deals with these individuals. And so very little changes. And so that you end up, your attrition rate is high and the people that leave are really good. And so if you're measuring engagement scores here, generally the scores are between 20% and 40% because people just don't have that sense of optimism. Now, as I mentioned at the end of part 1, and I'll mention at the end of every part, if you want to find out where you are right now, head over to www.5culturesquiz.com. And in the next part, I'm going to talk about a pleasant culture.